When I was 12, my mom had just started trusting me enough to leave me home alone. So, this had to be when I was around 12 years old. We lived in a quiet, friendly town, safe streets, big yards, and a cozy little village with shops and restaurants. It was the kind of place where you didn't feel like you had to look over your shoulder at night. Everything just felt safe. That's part of the reason my parents felt comfortable leaving me alone at such a young age. I still live in the same house with my parents, but back then, it was the perfect setup for a kid like me. It was a weekend night, and my parents were heading out for the night. When we were little, my grandparents would watch me, and my older sister. But my sister wasn't home that night. And since I was old enough to be left alone, my parents decided to trust me with the house to myself. They left me some cash for pizza and told me to keep it low-key, just how a 12-year-old would want it. Pizza, video games, and no one telling me what to do. At that age, I was obsessed with James Bond video games, so I was playing Nightfire on my PS2 for the third time. After finishing the game, I decided to order a pizza. The place was called Giannis, just a few blocks away from our house. It's been closed for years now, but it was one of my family's favorites. I ordered a regular pie. Back then, I could eat 3 slices without even thinking about it. My mom had always told me to wrap up the leftovers in foil and stick them in the fridge. So after I gobbled up the pizza, I wrapped the rest up and threw it in the fridge. While waiting, I popped in another game, Agent Underfire, though I wasn't as into it as Nightfire. Around the time I was getting into the game, the doorbell rang. I ran downstairs, $20 in hand, to pay for the pizza. My mom had told me to tip the driver $4. The pizza place was close, so that seemed like a fair tip for the time. The delivery guy was in his 30s, rough-looking with a long, scruffy beard, glasses, and a black trucker's hat. He handed me the pizza, and as I paid him, he asked, "You alone here?" I was taken aback. It was a strange, almost creepy question. I knew my parents had taught me to be cautious with strangers, so I quickly said, "My parents are on their way home." Looking back, I realize how dumb that answer was. I should have just said, "No." But I didn't want to seem weird, and there were no cars in the driveway, so I guess he was just wondering. After handing me the change, I closed the door, went to the kitchen and had my pizza. After eating about 3 slices, I wrapped the rest up, put it in the fridge, and went back upstairs to play some more. Hours passed, and around 11 p.m., the doorbell rang again. Thinking it was my parents, I rushed downstairs. I said, "Mom, Dad," but an unfamiliar voice answered, "Hey, I need help." He said he needed to use the phone. I asked who it was, but he repeated, "I just need to use the phone." I wasn't sure what to do. I didn't want to look out the window. Honestly, I was scared. So, I decided to go upstairs and ignore it. I knew better than to open the door for some stranger at night. As I was walking up the stairs, I heard loud banging on the door. Then the voice called out, "Wait, please, I need help." He must have seen me through the glass because I could see his shadow standing there, staring directly at me. I rushed upstairs, ran to my parents' room, and grabbed the house phone. I called my mum's cell, told her someone was at the door asking to come in. I could hear her tone change instantly. She went from calm to worried. She asked if I'd spoken to the man, and I told her the truth. She asked if anyone knew I was alone, and that's when I thought of the pizza guy. I told her he'd asked if I was alone, and she sounded more concerned. Around that time, the doorbell rang again, followed by 2 more knocks. My mom told me to stay in their room, lock the door, and not make a sound. She said they were calling the police, and I stayed on the phone with her while they did. I could hear the quiet sounds of a gate opening in the backyard, slow and quiet, like someone was sneaking around. I whispered to my mom, "What if he tries coming in through the den window?" She kept reassuring me to stay quiet and keep the lights off. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Footsteps. Heavy footsteps, moving around downstairs. It sounded like someone was walking through the house. I whispered to my mom in panic. I could hear her yell into the other phone to the police, probably telling them the man was inside. She told me to hide under the bed and stay still. For me, a 12-year-old, it was the most terrifying thing I'd ever experienced. The only thing that gave me any sense of safety was the little lock on the bedroom door. I heard the footsteps coming up the stairs, then fade away as the intruders seemed to search through the other rooms. I could hear them trying to open the door to my parents' room, twisting the handles several times. Then, there was a soft knock, but no words. After a few seconds, the footsteps moved back downstairs. I stayed completely still, barely breathing, trying not to make a sound. My mom told me the police were close, but to stay put. It wasn't long before I heard several officers in the house, shouting and moving fast. My mom told me to unlock the door. When I did, there were 2 officers standing at the top of the stairs, and 2 more downstairs. They didn't need to kick the front door in, because the back door was wide open. The officers found the sliding window in the back completely open, and I had to explain everything. My suspicion about the pizza guy, the strange events, and how the man might have known I was alone. The police took a report, including the pizza guy's description, and said they'd investigate. The next day, my parents took me to Gianni's Pizzeria. They wanted me to point out the delivery driver if I saw him. But when I didn't see him, the manager pointed to an employee who matched the description of the guy I'd seen. His name was Phil. When we told him about the whole situation, he was dismissive and asked us to leave. My parents were furious, and they made a scene in the pizzeria. They said they'd never give Janice our business again. We waited outside in the car, but Phil never showed back up. My parents thought maybe the manager had warned him. We contacted a few lawyers, but none would take the case due to lack of evidence. We never went back to that pizzeria, and it wasn't until much later that my parents felt comfortable leaving me home alone again. Honestly, I still think it was the pizza guy, or someone associated with him, because who else would have known I was home alone that night?